So maybe some of you remember that we have already discussed the general outlines of Sri Ramakrishna's life in the old ashrama. Anjali ji must be remembering. We had about 12 sessions in which we, from the birth to the last, we had discussed. That was long ago. So this will also be a kind of, you can say, series, because we are lucky to have so many details about Sri Ramakrishna's sadhana. So we will go through all the various phases one by one. They are absolutely unique. Even in India, where there have been so many incarnations, saints and sages, his life was absolutely unique. So it is now generally accepted by most of the persons, even outside Bengal, that Sri Ramakrishna, like Sri Krishna, Sri Ramchandra, and so many others, Chaitanya was an incarnation of God, God incarnate on earth. So what they do and why they do are completely different from ordinary persons. What they can do, no human being can even think of doing. And the reason why they do is also completely different. Why we do something, even ordinary acts, and why they do, outwardly it will look the same, but actually it is completely different. What is the difference? We do under compulsion. We cannot help doing, because our past impressions are behind us, our desires are there. So most of the actions we do with a gain to get something in return. Only very great saints, they can do completely unselfish action. Those who have realized, who have had the vision of God. But why incarnations do something that is also completely different from the saints? Why? Because incarnations, they're coming, when God comes down to earth, He has only one motive: to teach. So He has nothing to gain for Himself. As God, He is complete, already complete. So all the activities of an incarnation, Swami Vivekananda has given a wonderful guideline. After they live for some years, then they go away, then many things are spread about them sometimes. He did this, that, who did this, who did that, now nobody has recorded. So how to know the authenticity? So Swami Vivekananda has given a guideline. If something has been said that Sri Ramakrishna did such and such a thing, what is the guideline? The guideline is, it must have been for the good of the world, if he had done something. This means every action of God is for the good of the world. So naturally, all his sādhanā also is also for the good of the world. So we will discuss today the significance of why. We don't know, we cannot fathom the details, or we cannot understand the motives. We are just ordinary people. But the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna were not ordinary people. So all of you know that Swami Sardhananda's biography of Sri Ramakrishna is the most authentic and the most detailed also. So he has discussed, besides actual life of Sri Ramakrishna, he has discussed so much about spiritual tradition of India, various modes of sadhana. It is an encyclopedia, you can say, on spiritual life. So basing upon that, mostly I will be quoting that, and we will try to understand what he has said. So on the significance of the avatar. Now avatar is also accepted one in English. So avatar or incarnation as a spiritual aspirant, as a sadhaka. So whenever we think of God, either in his absolute sense or when he comes down to earth, especially when he comes down to earth, because who has had the vision of his absolute form? So whenever you think of him, Sri Krishna, Ramchandra, Jesus, Buddha, Chaitanya, whatever, we naturally remember their divine birth first. Extraordinary deeds, extraordinary teachings, and the most important, their transforming influence on humanity. That is what matters to us, no? If their lives did not touch ours, for us it would be of no use. But one question sometimes people don't understand, people like us. Why should an incarnation perform spiritual disciplines at all? God is already perfect by very definition. So it is strange that he also has to do prayer, he also has to do meditation, austerity. He is yearning for God, so God is yearning for God. So what is happening here? See, the whole life of an incarnation is outside the realm of ordinary understanding. We cannot really understand. But we can try to, with the help of what the disciples say. So understanding the significance of an incarnation sadhana may not be possible for us to completely understand, but the more we dive into it, the more we think about it, hear about it, try to understand it, it will benefit us in our sadhana. So his sadhana reveals not only the greatness of God, his extraordinary qualities, but most important, everything which they do provide invaluable guidance and hope for people like us who wish to progress in spiritual life. So naturally it is very profound, as all the deeds of the very concept of an incarnation is very profound. Sri Ramakrishna says again and again in Gospel that how did infinite God occupy such a small human body? But after all, what do we know? Even the impossible can be possible. So whatever he does is for the good of humanity, and when we meditate on his sadhana also, this should be the guideline. One principle. What? That he comes to teach. God is the only teacher. If you trace the line of the Guru Parampara, it will go to Shiva or some other. He only teaches, and his message is transmitted by his disciples or the persons who are fit. So first is he has to teach how, not by giving lectures. Lectures won't help if there is no life behind it. Their words have so much power. Why? They teach by example. An incarnation does not merely preach the path to God. He demonstrates it by his own life. So his own life shows how spiritual realization, actual realization, requires tremendous earnestness, tremendous purity, tremendous performance, tremendous perseverance, and wholehearted dedication. So they show by their own life. Secondly, we read in the Puranas, so and so did this, so and so did that thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago. Now we wonder, will this still, all these are still valid or not in this age? And so many stories are there. We can treat them as stories also. Yes, like some communists say, no, that God is the opium of the masses, something like that. So society will go to pieces, so give them the concept of God. So is that true, or whether these things really work? Someone has to validate. Vedas, are they true? The principles laid down in the Upanishads, are they true? Do people actually realize those, or they are just in books? So they validate first the scriptures, and naturally the teachings of the scriptures. Without them, you would have no guide, no proof. Thirdly, they reveal different stages of spiritual life. Start from the first stage. Of course, they are never on the first stage like us, but still, they are there, their disciples are there, so they reveal the various stages of spiritual life till one reaches the final goal. Then they also inspire us, they give us confidence, because an incarnation does not come alone. So he may be beyond the realm of ordinary persons, but he comes with so many disciples. So each disciple has something to teach. Many were not absolutely ordinary like us, but many were not so advanced. They were householders, they had families, they had their children. So they could also reach such tremendous heights of spirituality. So through his own life and through the life of those who come with him, they give us hope, confidence. Then one of the most important, which Swamiji has said, and also it is in the Gita, why they come through their spiritual life. What do? Sthapakaya cha dharmasya. In the Gita, dharma sansthapanaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So they come with a spiritual mission, special mission. They demonstrate the particular ideals which humanity need in that age. So in this age, Sri Ramakrishna, what did he demonstrate? He was the only incarnation who practiced not only one religion, but practically all the different paths of not only religions belonging to other countries, but also of the infinite number of sects which India has. Vaishnava, Shakta, Shaiva, so many. So he practiced quite a few types of sadhana. And he showed that this should be stressed in this age of conflict, where people are killing each other in the name of religion. Then another thing, most of us are complaining that, oh, we tried so much, we prayed so much, where is God? Does he listen? So he also comes down to manifest this divine compassion. He doesn't gain anything by accepting all the sufferings which one has to assume when anyone has a human body. He doesn't gain anything by it. So his spiritual practices also are one way of showing humanity that I care for you. If nothing else works, I myself come down to show you the path. And he also demonstrates one thing, that is the harmony of grace and self-effort. So some people may think that, oh, that is our favorite excuse. Arey Bhagwan kripa karenge tabhi hoga. But while cooking our food we don't say. While earning money we don't say. But here the complaint is, oh yes, God will be gracious, then something will happen. So All this duplicity is there in our mind, which I need not stress upon. So he comes and shows us God's grace is there, always there. If you do self-effort, you can make use of that grace. If you are not fit, so somebody is lecturing on relative theory of Einstein, and people who don't even know how to read and write are listening. So they are not fit to receive that. So if we don't try, if we don't follow his teachings, if we do whatever we like, and then we complain, that complaint is of no use. So he shows that the presence of grace is already there, and he also shows us how we can make ourselves fit to receive that grace. So in short, we can say these may be the objectives of even an incarnation of God who is already perfect from his birth, why he performs sadhana. Ultimately, it is not to make him perfect. Ultimately, it is for our sake. Transforming abstract spiritual truths into reality. Otherwise, suppose we read the scriptures, what good will it do to us? In any field, you see, sports, arts, anything. You read a whole book on how to sing. There is no singer. It will be completely useless. So these spiritual truths are so abstract, like arts. If they are not lived and we don't see that person who lives them, there is no way we can understand them. So he lives, he meditates, he prays, he practices renunciation, and he shows the highest level of these spiritual disciplines. The utmost. That's why Sri Ramakrishna said, I have done 16 times, you do one part. That is enough. But that one part is actually too much. His 16 parts, yes, but that is also really very difficult, not so easy. So these lives can be said to be living scriptures. And teaching us in this way, to teach us in this way, God assumes human imperfections. Sri Ramakrishna said again and again, when God comes, he behaves just like ordinary human being. Eating, drinking, sleeping. Nobody can understand that he is different from us. So he takes on, what is the difference between us and them? The imperfections, first of all, they have hardly an atomic part of our imperfections. And secondly, they assume that they can see something. If you assume, of our own free will, you can give it up whenever you like. Is it not? So our imperfections are ingrained in us. We cannot get rid of them whenever you like. But he assumes those to show us how to get rid of them. That is it. So it's like, suppose a coach, a cricket coach. So a person, suppose he is learning how to bat or bowl or whatever. So he'll come into the field and behave just like a novice and then show that now you do this way. Is it not? Then only a student can learn. Just a simple example. So this may be said to be what we can understand with our limited intelligence, the significance of the sadhana of incarnation. Now we will see what Swami Sardhanandaji has said about it. We'll try to understand. So first thing Swami Sardhananda says that it is surprising that with the exception of Bhagavan Buddha and Chaitanya Dev, Chaitanya Dev also, not a great deal is available. Religious history offers almost no detailed accounts of the spiritual practices of incarnations. If you see Sri Ramachandra's life, what do you get? Nothing is there. He grew up, he left home, he went to the forest, killed all the demons and all, taught, teachings are there, but their practices are not available. What they did. Krishna also same thing. So he says this is surprising. We rarely find descriptions of the intensity of their striving. What must have been their passion, their zeal, with which they must have pursued the truth, and the struggles they must have faced. Sometimes hope, sometimes despair, sometimes joy, sometimes longing. So there is no doubt they must have experienced such ecstasy, elation, sometimes rejection also, because they are assuming those human qualities. But what was the difference? They never allowed their focus to waver. They never complained like we do. It is so difficult, etc., etc. So one thing is that this is surprising that we don't find any detailed accounts of their sadhana, except one or two. And he says it is also difficult to trace any natural cause and effect between the extraordinary actions of their later lives and the education, enthusiasm and experiences of their earlier years. So all that is said of Sri Krishna, he went to Sandipani Muni, Sudama was there. But what was he learn? What did he learn that which helped him to become Krishna? So we cannot understand clearly how Krishna, the beloved of the gopis of Vrindavan, became Krishna of Dwarka, the restorer of Dharma. Likewise, only a few episodes are known from the early life of Jesus before the age of 30. You may be knowing some years of his life are completely in the dark. Nobody knows anything. Then biographies of Shankaracharya also mainly record he grows up quickly, attains knowledge. Of course, he never grew up much because while very young, he started to teach. So there also we don't have any details of his sadhana. The same pattern holds for other incarnations of also. Now, Sardhananji says the reason for this silence about their sadhana details is not easy to find. We can only guess what may be the reason. First, maybe excessive devotion discouraged devotees from regarding details that might appear to attribute human imperfections to a divine personality. So they will think that, oh, if we show his weakness, then people will think that what is the difference between Krishna and us? So these people who did not narrate the details, they may have felt justified in concealing anything which was inconsistent with perfection. Or perhaps they believed that humanity would benefit more by contemplating the highest ideals embodied in the flawless lives of great souls than from knowing how these ideals were attained through immense superhuman efforts. Thus, devotees may have considered it unnecessary to record the spiritual practices. They thought devotion will be harmed. Is it not? So, devotees always try to see God as absolutely perfect. Even when God assumes human bodies, devotees sometimes hesitate to admit that they might have experienced human weakness or moments of limited insight or power. Most of them try to stress on what? Miraculous. So people like to hear incidents of what? Yashoda, as soon as Sri Krishna opened his mouth, she saw the whole universe. These may be true. God can do anything. But the thing is, we are more enamored by these incidents. So they expect to find mature intelligence and profound experience even in the infant Krishna. Is it not? So childhood play of Krishna also, they will view the Leela as something which an omniscience, omnipotence person did. It is therefore no wonder that devotees conclude that activities of incarnations, mental efforts such as spiritual practice, as well as physical activities like eating, sleeping, etc., are all show. They will say that it is all show, nothing is actually, they are already perfect, they cannot have any weakness. So he says, even during our own lifetime, means Sardhananji is telling this, even during our own lifetime, we have witnessed how some prominent devotees of Sri Ramakrishna were convinced that his disease, cancer, was feigned, show. They feared that acknowledging human struggle in an incarnation will diminish the devotion. So Sadhanaji says it is not their fault. This is a weakness. Thinking like this, that if we think that incarnations have any imperfection, then he cannot be an incarnation. So he says such weakness is natural in the early stages of devotion, not when devotion matures. So to those devotees who think that the efforts of an incarnation to attain truth and manifest it fully in his life are mere pretense, it is just pretending, our response is, means Sadhanaji is telling, our response means disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Our response is that we never heard the Master express such a view. Master means Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna never expressed such a view that I am only pretending. Rather, we heard him say many times, what? Quote, when God incarnates, all his actions become like those of ordinary humans. He assumes a human body and attains perfection through zeal, self-effort and austerity, like other human beings. Like other human beings. Unquote. And the history of the world religions testifies to this. And reason, rationality, also dictates that if this were not so, if all an incarnation did was just pretending, then there is no point in his coming down. Is it not? So no point in God's assuming a human body out of compassion. You will come, you pretend something and go, but we are not pretending. What will happen to us? So assuming human bodies and living among human beings, incarnations also inevitably experience, very slight extent, our short-sightedness and limited knowledge. So it is not that Sri Ram was just pretending when he was searching for Sita. He may be missing Sita, like an ordinary human being, to show that we are also attached like this. Is it not? Like us, they also must struggle to discover the path that leads beyond all limitation. So there is another side to this. What I said about Sri Ramchandra, some of you who have read Ramcharitmanas may contradict. But Tulsidas ji has said it is all Leela. We will come to that. Everything has been answered. So, like us, they must struggle to discover the path that leads to the final goal. And until that path is fully realized, the awareness of their divine nature flashes forth only momentarily and is soon veiled again. So once somebody asked Holy Mother, Sarda Devi, that do you remember your divine nature all the time? So she said, if I remember it all the time, then who will do this work? Maku, Radhu, Pagli Mami, who will take care of them? So they sometimes you can say they themselves veil it, or for whatever reason it is veiled. This much is confirmed by her. For the welfare of many, they accept this veil. This much is accepted by all. They accept this veil of Maya. And like us, they move through this realm of alternating light and darkness. Yet, because they are utterly free from any selfish desire, they perceive much more light than we can ever do. That is the main difference. Concentrating all their energy in a single direction, they quickly reach the goal. Why don't we reach the goal quickly? Because so many things are distracting us. But their mind is one-pointed. So once they reach the goal, then they dedicate themselves wholly for the good of humanity for which they have come. So Sri Ramakrishna, unlike many other incarnations, openly acknowledged his human imperfections. For that, it is profoundly beneficial to study his human aspect along with his divine nature. That is why Incarnation of God is very difficult to understand. Because we think that a person will either be divine completely or only human. But here they have a strange mixture, inscrutable mixture of divinity as well as human attributes. So when we study Sri Ramakrishna's life, we should keep this in mind. When we contemplate the Master's divinity, we should keep his human aspect also clearly in view. That is the thing. If we fail to see him as one of us, we cannot appreciate the superhuman enthusiasm and effort he poured into his sadhana. Then we cannot relate to that. That is the thing. We may wonder, why would one who is eternally perfect need to strive for truth, as we said? Or we may conclude that his lifelong effort was merely a divine play, a show for the world. Worse still, his steadfastness and renunciation, which is meant to inspire us, will produce depression, discouragement. Oh, he did, but we cannot do. He showed us, he played around and went. But we are not playing around, we are suffering. That will rather discourage us, not give us hope. So yes, incarnations are divine. We are praying for their grace. That is perfectly okay. But we must also accept an incarnation as a human being. And we must accept that he also has human feelings like us. Although he is not a slave of his feelings like us. So Sri Ramakrishna says, when his nephew Akshay passed away, so he started clapping his hand. He saw the soul leaving the body. nobody is actually dying, he saw. But next moment, when he missed him, then he felt that my heart is being wrung like this out of sorrow. So was it a show? If it was a show, it would have no value. And then he said, then I realized, if I can feel so much sorrow, then how much sorrow ordinary persons feel. So we have to keep this in mind. Because he sympathizes with our suffering, he must come near us to alleviate it. If he does not suffering, see, suppose a person does not suffer, he can never understand the suffering of others. So if whatever incarnation did was all show, pretense, then he could not have understood our suffering. And if you cannot understand the suffering, there is no question of compassion. So the very fact that they have boundless compassion shows that they also experience suffering. They experience it, for others, they experience it much more actually than what we do. So from every angle, we are compelled to think of an incarnation as divine, yes, but also as a human being. That is his purpose in coming. Because as a human being, we can only think of God as a human being. Like Swami Vivekananda says in Bhakti Yoga, a cow, if she thinks of God, it will be a God cow, cow God. Not a human God. She has no concept of a human being. Is it not? So anyway, that is a different topic. So now about what I was telling, you will find in Ramcharitmanas also that when Parvati says, is he king of is he son of Dasharatha, is he Brahman? So Shiva says, don't ever entertain such a doubt. And he is Brahman, but he is also king of a son of Dasharatha. Both are there. And then he says, many places are you can see that what he is doing is his Leela. But Leela is not same as pretense. Leela in what sense? All the weaknesses which we see in him, they may be real, but he has assumed them. That is the difference. In that state, in that sense, it is Leela. And if Tulsidas ji says it is Leela, that is completely different from our thinking it as Leela. Why? The simple, that sometimes we are also confused. Why we are confused? There was an incident in Sri Ramakrishna's life. Now he is suffering terribly from cancer at that time. He cannot eat. He is telling that it is as if a sword. In those days they did not have those medicines, no. You can put a person to sleep, alleviate his pain. So people then had to terribly suffer. He said, somebody is piercing me with a sword. I want to eat so much, I cannot eat anything. I am so hungry. Then Turyananda ji comes. Turyananda ji was very young at that time. So he says to Sri Ramakrishna, whatever you say, I see you as full of bliss. Then Sri Ramakrishna smiles and says, yes, you have caught me. So this is a contradiction. Then why is Sri Ramakrishna telling I am suffering so much if he is actually experiencing infinite bliss? So this question was asked to one of our presidents. And I was there at that time. So one of our acharyas, when we were in training center, we used to give our questions to our acharya. He's still there. He's a head of one center. I often talk to him. So he used to present those questions before Maharaj. We will all stand and he would be sitting and answering questions. So he said, Maharaj, we see that Sri Ramakrishna is suffering so much. Everybody is telling that out of his compassion, but Turiyananji is telling that he is not suffering. So Maharaj gave answer only in one line. Turiyananji, Sri Ramakrishna says, yes, you have caught me. So Maharaj gave answer in only one line. Turiyananji had caught him, but you have not caught him. So you cannot say. Turiyananji was at such a level then that he could see what is behind the body. He himself was such an elevated soul that he realizes that if a person has realized the truth, then these bodily sufferings don't touch him like they touch us. In spite of everything, he never loses sight of his divinity. But we are not Turiyananji. So if we say, then it will be false. Why? Because we will be trying to say our suffering is real, his suffering is unreal. But we are also divine actually. So can you treat your suffering as unreal? Turiyananji could treat his own suffering as unreal also. He was such an elevated soul. That's what Maharaj's answer means. So he could see that Sri Ramakrishna's suffering was on that level. But we cannot say, because our stomach pain is very real to us. So if we say, like Tulsidas ji, that everything is Leela, Tulsidas ji could say, he was such an elevated soul. But we cannot say. So in this way we have to understand, otherwise there will be conflict. So here the same answer has been given by Sadhananji in detail in one paragraph. I will read that. What does he say? This Sri Ramakrishna's answer to Turiyananji and what Turiyananji said. What is the secret? The secret is this: until we ourselves are free from all bondage and established in our divine nature, we cannot say that divine incarnations are not persons. Because we have no concept of divinity actually. So till we achieve our real nature, till we become divine, we cannot say what Turiyananji said. It will be false. Till that stage, when we reach the absolute stage, we must conceive of God and the divine incarnations as persons also. Because we are human beings. This is a very subtle point actually. So in the Upanishads they say, Devam Bhutva Devam Yade. Becoming God, one should worship God. That is the best kind of worship. Shri Krishna says in the Gita, the Jnani is my favorite. Why? Because he has practically gained my nature. So, becoming God, one should worship God. That is true. But when does this happen? Only when we attain the final goal. We are established in our own divinity. Then we can worship God as He really is. Now we have no concept of divinity at all. It is just words. You don't have any experience. So how can you worship God in His divine nature? Could you follow? A beggar has not seen a king, has no concept of a king. So if a king appears before him, what will he understand? Suppose he has no concept. Suppose, or other example, suppose the alien has come from Mars. Now we don't know anything about him. Nothing at all. We have no concept what Mars is, where is Mars, how the people live there. So what idea can you have of him? If he comes before us in a human form, all we see is a human form. That's all. We have to accept him as a human because his real nature we don't know, no idea. So people like us, that's why Swami Vivekananda says, still we think we are human beings. We cannot disregard the human aspect of the incarnation because that is all we understand. Divinity comes afterwards. But those who have already reached that stage, they will understand the real nature of an incarnation. That is the aim of life. That is why Sri Krishna says in the Gita, see, without knowing all this, we cannot understand the scriptures also. In the Gita, Sri Krishna says, one who knows my real nature. Yo evam vijanati, something like that is there. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita. Mudoyam na vijanati loko mam ajam avya. Then he says, yo mam ajam anadim cha veti tasyaham na pranashyami sachamena pranashyati. So one who knows my real nature, knows means what? You can only know God when you realize your own divinity. Then I am never lost to him, he is never lost to me. So this is the answer. See, you can relate everything. So this is the answer. For a people like us, our vision is very limited, confined to this human frame. We know nothing except human, I am a human being. So for us, we cannot say that God is just divine only and is not human. He has no human attributes. All that he did was just show. Not at all. When this world is real to us, when our bodies are real to us, our sufferings are real to us, then every action of his is also real to us. Those persons are very rare who are established in the divine, who can truly worship God as only God. True nature of God is what? Completely beyond Maya. Without reaching that state, how can we know it? So we are far, far away from that state. But God has to make us attain that state. So, out of compassion for ordinary people and to accept our worship, those who cannot worship Him in His real form, to accept our worship, He comes to the human plane, comes near us and assumes a human body and also human emotions. And they are all perfectly real for us. So this is the, you can say, samanvaya. You can say that it may seem that the two viewpoints are conflicting, but they are not conflicting. Similar is the case with the Vedanta, the main question which is asked, is the world unreal or real? Same answer. It depends on where you stand. There can be no absolute question to this. Like yesterday we were discussing, no, is the world good or bad? Depends upon how you are seeing it. Is the world blissful or miserable? Sometimes we feel that the world is so good, sometimes we feel the world is so bad. Depends upon our vision. So here also, depending upon our spiritual growth, will be given the answer to this question, whether the world is real or not real. If someone being identified with the body says world is unreal, it is just nonsense. Nonsense. It has no meaning. But those who are established in that reality, for them, Trikal mein jagat nahi hai. Trikal means past, present or future. It never existed. Like we read yesterday in the Gita. But they can say, not we. For us, it will be a blasphemous statement, stupid statement. So here also we see this is what makes Vedanta a little difficult to understand. So anyway, this is the more or less the background against which we can study. So he was telling that it is surprising that the sadhana of incarnations generally are not documented, but by the infinite grace of God, we are very fortunate. The detailed accounts of sadhana which we are getting about Sri Ramakrishna is not available for any other incarnation. There is no comparison. And the main source, luckily, is Sri Ramakrishna's own words. It is unthinkable that incarnation himself has told about his experiences. So he narrated many episodes from his own spiritual disciplines, his own experiences. And he told his disciples who documented it, wrote it down. So Sadhanaji says before those disciples went to Sri Ramakrishna, before that, numerous events from his life as a sadhaka had been already witnessed by those associated with the Kali temple at Dakshineshwar. Hriday was the chief among them. And when Sardhananji, Vivekananda, all of them started going to Sri Ramakrishna, they were still alive. Sri Ramakrishna's nephew was still alive, who did also worshipped Kali later, was a pujari at the Kali temple. And those people directly told them, his disciples. So we are extremely lucky. So on basis of all these, we can contemplate about the Master's life and character. And the more deeply we reflect, the more we will be struck by the extraordinary harmony of divine and human qualities within. The main feature of an incarnation's life. So he says, without seeing him, Sadhanaji says, without seeing Sri Ramakrishna, we could never have imagined how such seemingly opposite traits, human and divine, could coexist so perfectly in one person. Without seeing them, it is not possible. But having lived in his presence, we are convinced that he was truly a God man. God man. God plus man. His divine qualities and powers shone clearly through the veil of his human body and human nature. Because we lived with him, we knew that he never feigned. There was no pretense. He never feigned any aspect of his life. He genuinely assumed human nature. Genuinely. Everything they do is genuine, otherwise why would there be difference? He genuinely assumed human nature for the welfare of humanity, showing us the path that leads from the human plane to the divine plane. Observing him closely, we understood that the incarnations earlier ages also must have manifested this wondrous blend of divinity and humanity. So if incarnation was only divine, then how could we approach him? If incarnation was only human, then where would lie the difference between us and incarnation? So, that's why he uses God man, not these God men which are coming up every day now. They are genuinely God. They are God, yes, but they are also human beings. So, this truth is revealed by reverent study of any in life of any incarnation. At times they live on our plane, not our plane actually, factually, I mean, not exactly our, on the human plane. Our plane is the lowest, not that plane. At times they live on our plane, dealing with people and objects as we do. But at other times, they soar to the highest spiritual realm and bring us glimpses of a world of ideas and powers unknown to ordinary minds. Though they are free from desire, they act in accordance with an unseen power that guides them from their childhood. Sometimes, even in childhood, they have an idea of this power. But at other times, they remain unaware that it is dwelling within them all the time. When they use that power to ascend to a highest plane, they may not yet be able to perceive all beings in the light of divine consciousness or behave towards them accordingly. But when this happens again and again, as they repeatedly encounter this inner power, an intense longing arises within them to understand it fully. And this longing generates profound enthusiasm, passion in them, and impels them to undertake spiritual practices. So this is the thing. So Sri Ramakrishna, of course, God incarnate, Sri Krishna, God incarnate, Rama. But to understand this, let us take those people whom he brought with him, Swami Vivekananda. So he himself describes from which level Swami Vivekananda had come. But did not Swami Vivekananda forget his real nature? When Sri Ramakrishna touched him, he said, "What are you doing? I have mother and father at home." Then Sri Ramakrishna later, he had to make him completely unconscious. You may be remembering that incident. He touched him. So Swami Vivekananda was not aware of anything which happened during that period. And at that time, Sri Ramakrishna asked him, "Who are you? Why have you come to the earth? How long will you stay?" To tally with his own experience. And everything matched. So they assume this for the sake of humanity. Sri Ramakrishna made Swami Vivekananda assume these human imperfections for some time. But they were not feigned. It was not show. Actually, it was there. But the difference is what? They assume it. And we are caught by it. That is the difference. Seeing us, that we are caught in this way, they show us how to be free from that. Otherwise, we cannot even have an idea of how to go about it. What is the path? Is it not? So, more or less, this is the introduction. And next time, we will go into the first stage. We will start from the childhood itself, because although they assume human bodies, they practice spiritual disciplines, but there is no denying that their mind is unlike any other human beings. So even when very young, they have these glimpses of divinity, which maybe we can have after life of sadhana. So, and luckily we have from his own lips. So first ecstasy we will see, second ecstasy what happened, third time when it happened, from his own and also from the people who were there. We were very lucky that we have been born so close to Him that, all these things are available. Even people like other seniors, even people like me, I have seen disciples of Holy Mother. I could not see disciples of the Master, but I have seen disciples of Holy Mother. I think 2 or 3 I have seen.
In India?
Yeah, in India. So, because Holy Mother outlived Sri Ramakrishna by many years, no? 1886, 1920. But they were not different. Holy Mother and Sri Ramakrishna were not different. So, we are extremely lucky in that way. So, I think we can stop here, and if you have, today there may be some questions, so you can, we can discuss anything you like.